Today you will see 10 most richest people on earth, and their motivational story through which we can be encouraged in our life to do something big. Number 10 is Charles Koch, who has net worth of $39.6 billion in year 2016. He is CEO of Koch Industries. His main source of wealth is diversified in wide area. He lives in Wichita, Kansas, U.S., and at the age of 80 he still works actively.
I found this in my father's safety deposit box after he died in 1967. And he wrote a letter that contained a fabulous message to us. And it said, in part, when you're 21, you will receive what seems to be a large sum of money. It may be either a blessing or a curse. You can use it as a valuable tool for accomplishment, or you can squander it foolishly. If you're given a lot of money, and then you feel you don't need to develop your abilities and make a contribution and develop your skills and contribute, then you're not going to be happy. No, he announced early on that he didn't want any of his sons to be country club bums. So his antidote to that, he teaches us the work ethic. And for various reasons, I kind of bore the brunt of that. So starting at age 6, he had me work in all my spare time, starting with digging up dandelions. Then I graduated to baling hay, shoveling out stalls, milking cows, fixing fence, digging post holes. So I learned a lot from that. If people don't learn to do hard work by the time they're in their 30s, they probably never will be very productive at work, because you learn things working that you don't learn in school. I was born, for whatever reason, a contrarian. I was a bit of a troublemaker. Matter of fact, years later, I asked my father, I said, "Pop, why were you so much tougher on me than my younger brothers?" He said, "Son, you plumb wore me out." His health had been bad for some time, and certainly by the 60s, I mean, that's how he talked me into coming back to work with him, is that he didn't have long to live, and either I come back to run the company or he was going to sell it, because he didn't have any other successor. If you choose to let this money destroy your initiative and independence, then it will be a curse to you, and my action in giving it to you will have been a mistake. Often adversity is a blessing in disguise, and is certainly the greatest character builder. Be kind and generous to one another, and be good to your mother, your loving father. This was nothing new. These were the kind of lessons he tried to teach us. We were blessed to have parents like that who gave the absolutely best effort to teach us the values and principles required for success and fulfillment.
Number 9 is David Koch, who has net worth of $39.6 billion in year 2016. He is Executive Vice President, Koch Industries. His main source of wealth is diversified in wide area. He lives in New York, U.S., and at the age of 76 he still works actively. He says, "The only dancing I did was at the discotheques. I was a very good disco dancer. I say that I learned disco dancing at the wrong places. The way I look at it is, cancer research is absolutely non-partisan. Cancer is very democratic in the sense that it attacks people regardless of their race, their gender, their national background, or their political persuasions." Number 8 is Michael Bloomberg, who has net worth of $40 billion in year 2016. He is CEO of Bloomberg. His main source of wealth is Bloomberg LP, self-made. He lives in New York, U.S., and at the age of 74 he still works actively. He says the fact, "I don't believe that government is good at picking technology, particularly technology that is changing. By the time you get it done and go through democracy, it's so outdated. I don't know why you should be proud of something It doesn't make you any better or worse. You are what you are. To a contrarian like me, constant advice not to do something almost always starts me quickly down the risky, unpopular path. Number 7. Is Larry Ellison, who has net worth of $43.6 billion in year 2016. He is CEO and founder of Oracle. His main source of wealth is Oracle, self-made. He lives in Woodside, California, US, and at the age of 71 he still works actively.
I decided to go in the computer business in college. I started working part-time programming. I found that in a very short period of time I could make more money writing programs than a tenured professor at the University of Chicago was making. And I was a teenager, and I said, this is kind of cool. And it was also fun. It was like a big game. It was like working on puzzles. So I enjoyed it. It paid extremely well. I could work at home. I could work at my own hours. No one quite, and the computer, and I closely associated with computers because they were absolutely a slave to reason. They knew nothing about fashion. They were completely logical, and I enjoyed spending time with them. So I liked what I was doing. It was very profitable. It was very creative. It was in school, and they noticed when I was writing programs for school that I was getting done faster than everybody else. So they offered me a job. And I figured out very, very quickly that rather than being paid by the hour, I was much better off being paid by the program. So I figured that. So I was working for the university, and then I started doing consulting for local businesses, and that worked very well. Relational database technology was invented by a guy by the name of Ted Codd, Dr. Ted Codd at IBM. It's based on relational algebra and relational calculus. It is a very mathematically rigorous form of data management that we can mathematically prove to be functionally complete. And this work was done in the early 70s by an IBM fellow by the name of Dr. Ted Codd. He published his papers, and really based on those publications, Oracle decided to see if we couldn't beat, well, 4 guys, me and 3 other guys, see if we couldn't beat IBM to market with this technology based on the published IBM research papers.
Number 6. Is Mark Zuckerberg, who has net worth of $44.6 billion in year 2016. He is co-founder, chairman and CEO of Facebook. His main source of wealth is Facebook. He lives in Palo Alto, California, US, and he is only of 32 and ranked 6th in Forbes' Richest People.
The thing that we are trying to do at Facebook is just help people connect and communicate more efficiently. That when you give everyone a voice and give people power, the system usually ends up in a really good place. So what we view our role as is giving people that power.
I started Facebook when I was 19, right? So I was just a kid, right? And I knew nothing about business, and nothing had ever been written about me. So a lot of these experiences along the way have been really new, and it took me some getting used to.
We really believe that if you give people the right tools and you give people permission and control over who they want to share it with, then over time they will share more information. Just because it creates value for them to be able to build out their identity and communicate with all these different people. Well, the thing that's really important is that we need to give people complete control over their information. Right? People need to be able to say exactly who they want to share each piece of information that they're sharing. You know, when you have a website, just having someone be able to come and log in gives you some information about them and some context on who they are, but through things like Facebook Connect, you can really understand who the person is and be able to tailor your product to it.
And I think it really comes down to what the core need is that the service is addressing, which is that people want to stay connected with their friends and family. Everyone has friends and family. Everyone is part of a community. People want to see what's going on with the people in their community. And that's really similar across every country.
Right. Well, what we're thinking about is, we want to get as little dilution as possible and raise money on the most favorable terms. And we're building this relationship with Microsoft, and we have this ad relationship. We're doing several other things, and they wanted to buy a piece of the company, so we just discussed this, and this is what made it.
If you think about it, when you go to have a conversation with someone, If you know something about them going in, the more you know, the better of a conversation you can have, the better of kind of an interface you can have and you can provide. Now, I don't think the products and marketing are really any different, right? I mean, the more you're able to customize and personalize the products that you offer and the marketing that you have, I just think that the more effective it's going to be. When I got started in 2004, there was really no question I was going to build a website, right? I mean, software was kind of too hard to build, and I think most things were going to the web, so a lot of software development was on the way out, and mobile phones weren't penetrated enough yet, and the platforms weren't developed enough, so it's like, all right, you're going to build a website.
The most important thing to me is to be within walking distance of the office, so every morning I can just wake up and walk 5 or 10 minutes to work.
A lot of it is just moving quickly and trying a lot of things. So at Facebook, we've really built our whole company and our culture around this.
When people think about platforms, I think a lot of the time they think about a vertical, right? So for example, iPhone platform is an environment in which you can build iPhone apps and use a phone. The type of platform that we're trying to build is horizontal in that it spans across all of these, right? We're trying to build an environment where people can build people-centric applications and design stuff in this personalized way everywhere. You know, whether it's on the web, on Facebook, on your own websites, in mobile applications, across all platforms.
We have this tradition of having hackathons, which are events where all of our engineers and really the whole company get together and stay up all night just building things.
In economics, there's the concept of elasticity, right? When the efficiency of doing something goes up, the demand for it goes up. And I think that this applies not only to how people use Facebook, but to how marketing is going to work and how development is going to work as well, right? The easier it is to build products, the more people build products. The more effective the marketing gets, the more people are going to advertise.
When people don't care about what someone says about you in a movie, or even what you say, right? They care about what you build.
Number 5 is Jeff Bezos, who has net worth of $45.2 billion in year 2016. He is CEO and founder of Amazon.com. His main source of wealth is Amazon.com. He lives in Seattle, Washington, U.S., and at the age of 52 he works actively.
That you are focused on something you're passionate about. You can't follow the fashion. When you're trying to do a startup company, or I think really anything in life, but you have to, as an entrepreneur, if you're gonna build a company, pick something you think is interesting, that has the intersection of genuinely creating real customer value, and then just stay right there and let the wave catch you. I first talked to my wife, who she had married a relatively stable, goofy but still relatively stable person working at a Wall Street firm. I worked at a quantitative hedge fund, and this was a hard decision. And I was looking for the right framework in which to make that kind of important decision. And the right framework I found is a regret minimization framework. And so that's just a nerdy way of saying that you want to project yourself to age 80. And then think back over your life, and if you're 80, what are you want to minimize the number of regrets. But it was a very clear way for me to think about making that kind of life decision. And the way it helped was, I thought, okay, if I go do this thing and participate in this thing called the internet that I genuinely believe is going to be a big deal, and if I fail, am I going to regret having tried and failed? And I knew the answer to that was no. But I also knew that if I didn't try, that I would always regret that.
Step by step, ferociously. Basically, you can't skip steps. You have to put one foot in front of the other. Things take time. There are no shortcuts, and but you want to do those steps with passion and ferocity.
Number 4 is Carlos Slim Hello family, who has net worth of $50 billion in year 2016. He is honorary chairman of America Move. His main source of wealth is telecom. He lives in Mexico City, Mexico, and at the age of 76 he still works actively. He says, "Competition makes you better, always, always makes you better, even if the competitor wins. If you're in business, you need to understand the environment. You need to have a vision of the future, and you need to know the past. Mistakes are normal and human. Make them small, accept them, correct them, and forget them." Number 3 is Warren Buffett, who has net worth of $60.8 billion in year 2016. He is CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. His main source of wealth is Berkshire Hathaway. He lives in Omaha, Nebraska, U.S., and at the age of 85 he advises his company when needed.
Working for him was a sort of different experience because Walter and I were in a little office. Ben was in another office. It was a tiny firm, 5 or so people, and almost anything that we knew what he was looking for, and so almost anything Walter and I would come up with, he would tell us go buy it, but he also did it in very, very small amounts. I was much more inclined to, if I found something good, to load up on it. And Ben was not that. He was really not that interested when we were at Graham Newman. I mean, I didn't know it then, but he was getting close to retiring. Making money did not motivate him, and he had all the money he needed. And I remember one time I was standing with him by the elevator. We were going down to eat at the cafeteria in the bottom of the Shannon building, and he said, "You still remember it?" He said, "Warren," he said, don't worry too much about making money." He says, it won't change the way you live. He says, "It'll change the way your wife lives." But he said, "Our wives live differently." But he says, "Look, at you and I are wearing the same clothes. We're going to eat at the same cafeteria, so relax." Well, I learned a lot of things about techniques of teaching, but Ben was this combination of being a wonderful friend to everybody, but always somewhat distant. I mean, he did not want to sit around a table and just shoot the ball or anything of that sort. It was not his style. So he would do things for you. My first son was born when I was working for him, and then we named him Howard Graham Buffett after my dad and after Ben. And Ben came over, and Esty, his wife, and they had a movie projector, a camera. I mean, fairly expensive type gifts, and he would always be doing that for you. And he didn't want anything in return. He actually, on his birthdays, he would give gifts to the people that attended the birthday party because he figured he was the happy one. My wife mentioned that I wasn't really too enthusiastic about dancing, and the next morning I found on my desk at Graham Newman a gift certificate to the White Plains Arthur Murray studio.
That's great. Did you go?
I didn't go, and then he asked me a few weeks later. He said, "They tell me at Arthur Murray's that you haven't been."
Number 2 is Amancio Ortega, who has net worth of $67 billion in year 2016. He is CEO of Zara. His main source of wealth is Zara Company. He lives in La Coruña, Spain, and at the age of 80 he still works actively. He says, "You must appear 3 times in the newspapers: when you are born, when you get married, and when you die. Innovation and commitment towards our customers define our corporate culture, putting our capacity for profitable growth in the long term to the scrutiny of investors." Number 1 is Bill Gates, who has net worth of $75 billion in year 2016. He is co-founder, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. His main source of wealth is Microsoft. He lives in Medina, Washington, U.S., and at the age of 60 he still works actively.
When I started Microsoft, I didn't think of it as all that risky. I mean, I was so excited about what we were doing. It's true I could have gone bankrupt, but you know, I had a set of skills that were highly employable, and in fact my parents were still willing to let me go back to Harvard and finish my education if I wanted to.
You've always got a job with me, Bill.
And the thing that was scary to me wasn't quitting and starting the company. It was when I started hiring my friends and they expected to be paid. And then we had customers who went bankrupt, customers that I'd counted on to come through. And so then I got this incredibly conservative approach that I wanted to have enough money in the bank to pay a year's worth of payroll, even if we didn't get any payments coming in. And I'm almost true to that the whole time. We have about 10 billion now, which is pretty much enough for the next year. Anyway, if you're going to start a company, it takes so much energy that it better overcome your feeling of risk. I don't think that you necessarily, if you're going to start a company, should do it at the start of your career. I think there's a lot to be said for working for a company, learning how they do things. If you're young, it's hard to go lease premises. They made that hard for me. You couldn't rent a car when you were under 25 at the time, so I was always taking taxis to go see customers. The people would, people would say, well, we're going to go have a discussion in the bar. Well, I couldn't go to the bar. But that's fun, because I'll tell you, when people are first skeptical and they think, oh, this kid doesn't know anything, then when you show them you've really got a good product and you know something, they actually tend to go overboard and they think, whoa, they know a lot. Let's really do an incredible amount with these people. So our youth, at least in this country, was a huge asset for us once we reached a certain threshold. It is hard. It's hard to hire older people because they'll be a little bit conservative about whether they should come and take the risk. And it took 3 or 4 years before we could go out into the normal sort of employment pool. But those problems that come with starting a firm, you better think of those as part of the pleasure, part of the challenge that is part of the excitement.
Thank you for watching this video. If you liked my video, please hit thumbs up and share my video. Don't forget to subscribe my channel for daily interesting updates.